All right, hello everybody. The purpose of this video is to get us familiar with Google Forms, which we will be using to create and send out our surveys for the class. So I wanted to show you just a little bit about it so that you can get started. So I'm just at Google Forms, all right? If you type in Google Forms, it'll bring you here. This is part of Google Docs, so if you use any of the Google Suite software as it is, this is just an addition to that, so you should be able to access it. If you don't immediately have access, you do need a Google account. You should use whatever email is affiliated with the institution that you are at. So if you have any trouble with access, do let me know. But once you're here, you will want to go to Google Forms and create a blank form. All right, so just create a blank form. And then here we go, all right? Google Forms is a wonderful tool, all right? It's meant for online data collection, and we have lots of different options and different features that we can utilize on this form. So I want to show you a few of those options. The first thing you'll want to do is name your form, right? I usually name mine with something reminding me what class it's for, and then what it is, right? All right, so give it a name. It'll save to your Google Drive. I'll let you know how you can basically export this to me for what you need. So what do we want to do here, right? We want to create a survey. I do have a file with survey guidelines, so make sure to take a look at that. That will tell you a little bit about how to name your survey. All right, maybe we want to name this. All right, let's go with an example. Let's see, what do we want to do? Let's take a look at maybe creativity and mental health outcomes. Okay, maybe we think that those who participate in more creative activities have better mental health outcomes. All right, so we'll keep it nice and general here. So that would be your title. All right, then in the form description, I have a disclaimer that you will use here. The disclaimer basically serves as an informed consent. It has some information about how participation is voluntary, how any participant can refuse to answer any question at any given time. And that they can contact me for questions. So again, based on the institution you're at, I've given you that disclaimer on that form. You'll go ahead and put it right here in form description. So disclaimer goes, well, if only I could spell, goes here, okay? Disclaimer will go here. It's about a paragraph and it is on the survey guidelines form. All right, so once you have that in place, you're ready to start making your survey. So a few of the things I discuss in the survey guidelines document is that we don't necessarily have a question limit that we're trying to reach here. We are more concerned with how long it will take somebody to complete your survey. Remember that your survey will not be the only one that people are taking, so you want to make sure it's not too excessively long. All right, a general guideline should be it should take about 2 to 3 minutes to complete. So that could mean an array of questions. But let's go ahead and give some example questions here. We always start with some demographic information, so general information about your participants. So it starts off with one blank question here. All right, so maybe we just want to ask people their age. All right, and Google Forms is very smart. It can make some assumptions about what you're trying to do. So I went ahead and typed in age and it automatically put in a short answer question. So now your participant will be able to just type in their age, right? So no need to make age groups. Just let them report their age, right? People report their age in years. All right, there are a few different toggles here. You can duplicate questions if you're going to make multiple of the same question. You can delete a question. You can even add an image to your question. You can look at all of the different types of questions we can ask. We'll be using a variety of these. We have scales, we have multiple choice. So we'll go ahead and leave this here at short answer. We're not going to use this required toggle because we are not requiring anyone to answer anything, right? It's optional, it is voluntary. So once you have a question in here, you can add a question over here. You probably won't be importing questions, but there are a few different options here. You can create a new section. All right, section 1 of 2. Section 2 will take them to another page. So maybe you want a page for your demographics and then a page for the rest of your questions. That is up to you. But let's go ahead and add another question. All right, let's say that in addition to age, we also want to ask gender. So again, gender gives us a few options, right? It assumes what we want. It assumes that we want a multiple choice question, which maybe we do, right? We can add, it even has suggestions for us here. We can add female, we can add male, prefer not to say. We can do other. We can add our own option, right? We can include something like a non-binary option, right? So this is up to you. When it comes to gender specifically, there are lots of ways you can ask it. Ask it in a way that's relevant to your research, right? If you are interested in gender differences, right, you'll want to make sure that you have some options here that cover all your bases. If gender is not so important to you, you can have less options here. It depends, right, on your research question and what we are trying to accomplish. All right, if you're ready to add another question, you can go ahead and do so. Let's think about the question that I've posed here, at least my topic here, creativity and mental health outcomes. All right, now I want to think about how I will get at my variables. And we've, of course, done some thinking about our hypothesis and our variables, so you should have some idea of how you want to investigate it. But let's start simple. Maybe we ask a question like, do you consider yourself a creative person? All right, then maybe we just have this as a yes or no question. You can give people a maybe or a sometimes option if you want. But maybe you ask something like this, right? Do you consider yourself a creative person, yes or no? Remember that the thing that should be on the forefront of your mind when creating a survey is what type of data will this survey give me? Right? So a question like this will give you a categorical variable. You'll have two categories. You'll have people who said yes, they do consider themselves creative, and people that say no, they do not consider themselves creative. We could take this another step further. We can add another question. We can maybe say on a scale of 0 to 10, how creative do you consider yourself? All right, so instead of just a binary option up here, yes and no, now we're asking on a scale, right? We can make the scale from 0 to 10. All right, so maybe we say that 0 means not creative at all, and 10 means very creative. All right, so this will give us a linear scale. All right, so this is looking pretty good. Right now we have two questions that get at creativity. All right, maybe we want to ask even another question, right? So now we have categories and a scale. Maybe we want to ask, how many hours per week do you spend on creative projects? All right, so we can leave this either multiple choice. We can say more than a certain hours per week, less than a certain hours per week, or we can just leave it open-ended, right? But something that we discuss in the survey data collection or our survey information lecture is that we want a variety of data types, right? You don't want to ask all yes or no questions. That's going to severely limit the types of analysis you can do on that data later down the line. So we can continue to come up with questions, mental health outcomes. We can ask the same things, or at least similar formats. We can say, would you say that your mental health is, maybe I don't want to phrase it this way, but we can ask something along the lines of a yes or no question, right? Or would you consider your mental health, or would you consider yourself mentally healthy, right? Yes or no. That's very general. You can ask people again on a scale. How would you consider, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10? If you're interested in specific mental health outcomes, you could ask something like, how many depressive symptoms do you experience in a given week, and list off a series of depressive symptoms. You have a lot of options here, right? You can format these questions really in any which way that you like. You can do a check all that apply, right? Check all that apply in a week I experience. All right, again, if only I could spell. Good thing we have spell check. Okay, option 1, you could just do anxiety, right? Option 2, you could do, depressed thoughts. You can go on and on. And you can also source these questions from other studies that you've read. For example, other studies you've read might include their scales or the questions that they asked to get their data, right? And you can use that as a framework to inspire your questions. So lots of different questions. Please be sure to use multiple options, right? You do not want to narrow yourself into only having scale questions or only having yes or no questions or only having fill in the blank, right? You want a variety of them all. We also want to stick with mostly quantitative data. If you remember all the way back to when we first talked about the difference between qualitative and quantitative data, qualitative data can be very difficult. If you have a question, right, that says something like just describe your mental health, you're going to get a very wide variety of responses that you'll ultimately need to turn into data that we can analyze, and that's very difficult. So asking people questions like this, where they answer into distinct categories, right, or they answer on a scale, helps us keep our data tidy. Remember, we like our data to be in nice, tidy boxes. All right, so that's some generals here about how we manage this. Once we send this out, there's another tab up here for responses. All right, we'll get to that after we actually send our surveys out. But a few other quick things here. You can customize your theme, all right, very fun. You can choose an image that's related to your topic to go on top of your survey. You can choose your theme color, very fun. You can change your background colors. It does give you some fun options here. You can change your font style. Please don't do this, okay? At least use one of these, the formal or the basic, all right? We want it to look nice and professional, okay? So you do have some options here. All right, we also have a preview. All right, you can take a look at a preview of what it will look like to your participant. All right, so they can put in their age, they can go to next, they can see those other questions that we came up with, and then submit. All right, so the preview tool is great. You can see what they will be seeing when you send it out. We have some settings here. We're not going to worry too much about many of these. We're not collecting email addresses. We're not collecting any personal information on people. This data collection will be anonymous and confidential. Do not ask for anybody's name, student ID number, anything like that, right? We don't care, right? We just want their information on our variables of interest, along with maybe some demographics like age, gender, ethnicity, etc. All right, so some other settings in here. You can choose a few of these. We probably don't want to shuffle questions, right? You can put in a confirmation message, and we're not making this a quiz, so there we have it. A few other things here. If you go to more here, you can add collaborators. If you're going to work with somebody else on your survey, which I really advise that you do, many of you have overlapping research topics. You can send out one survey, work from one data set, and save yourself both some time and energy, right? It's very easy to collaborate. To do so, you would go to add collaborators. You would put their email address in here, and then they'd be able to edit and access the survey. So this is nice and easy to do. You can change your share with people settings. We want to make sure that your collaborators have editing access. So there we go. All right, a few other things in here. You can make a copy, right? You can make multiple copies of your survey. You can have a final copy and some draft copies. Otherwise, we won't use too much more in here. And then the last really important bit is how you will turn this into me. Okay, you'll be turning this into me as a link, but you won't just copy this link up here because this link will send me to your editing page. What you'll do is you'll go to send, all right? You'll go to send via link, okay? This link here, you'll click on shorten URL, and then this is what you will send to me. This link will send me to your beautiful survey that your participants will see. So this is what you will turn in for your progress check. This is how you will get your survey to me. All right, so those are just some of the basics of Google Forms. You will be turning in a draft of your survey for Progress Check 3, and then you will have a week or so to get me a final draft after that. So we want to make sure it's looking good, looking strong, and we will review this in class as well. So I hope this helps you get started in Google Forms.